The ultimatum captain Elena Vasquez stood in the observation deck of the ESS Horizon, watching the stars shimmer against the endless black of space. She had spent 15 years among these stars, helping humanity establish colonies on distant worlds. In that time, she had seen wonders that would have seemed impossible to her ancestors. Humanity had grown from a single world to a civilization spanning 23 star systems. They had built cities on barren moons, terraformed hostile planets, and created a network of trade routes that connected millions of people across the galaxy. But tonight, something felt wrong. The communication array had been buzzing with encrypted transmissions all day. Ships were changing course without explanation, and now, standing orders had been issued for all military personnel to report to their stations immediately. Elena had learned to trust her instincts during her years in space, and right now, those instincts were screaming danger. The door behind her slid open with a soft hiss. Commander James Chen entered, his face pale and drawn. He carried a data tablet clutched tightly in his hands. Elena had known James for 8 years, had served with him through pirate raids and colony disputes. She had never seen him look this shaken. "Captain, you need to see this," James said, his voice barely steady. "It came through on Priority 1 channels 10 minutes ago. Every human ship, station, and colony received the same message simultaneously." Elena took the tablet and began reading. With each line, her blood ran colder. The message was from something called the Galactic Sovereignty Council, an organization she had never heard of despite humanity's 5 decades of space exploration. According to the transmission, the council represented 12 elder species who had been traveling the stars for thousands of years. They claimed authority over all inhabited space and demanded immediate compliance from all emerging civilizations. The message was clear and brutal in its simplicity. Humanity had expanded too quickly. Human military forces had grown too large. Human research into advanced weapons technology posed a threat to galactic stability. Therefore, the Council had reached a decision. Humanity would surrender 95% of its military vessels within 20 standard days. All weapons research would cease immediately. Council peacekeepers would be stationed on every human world to ensure compliance. Any resistance would be met with corrective measures. Elena read the message 3 times, each time hoping she had misunderstood. But the words remained the same. The Council was demanding that humanity disarm itself completely, accept foreign troops on their worlds, and submit to the authority of species they had never even met. "This cannot be real," Elena said finally. "We have violated no laws. We have attacked no one. Our expansion has been peaceful. Why would they do this?" James activated the holographic display in the center of the room. 12 alien figures appeared, each one representing a different species from the Council. They looked down at the viewer with expressions that Elena found deeply unsettling. There was no curiosity in those faces, no interest in dialogue or understanding. There was only contempt and certainty. "The transmission included this introduction," James explained. "These are the Council members. The tall ones with the crystalline wings are called the Ethans. They have been spacefaring for over 4,000 years. The beings that look like Livingstone are the Granite Collective. The ones with multiple arms are the Scytheri. All of them are ancient, powerful, and apparently terrified of us." Elena studied the alien faces carefully. "Terrified? They are demanding our surrender." "That is not fear. That is arrogance." "Maybe," James said quietly. "But think about it, Captain. Humanity went from discovering faster than light travel to establishing 23 colonies in just 50 years. Most species take centuries to achieve what we did in half a lifetime. We build ships faster than anyone thought possible. Our technology advances at a rate that makes other species uncomfortable. And our military, even though it exists only for defense, is now larger than some of the Council species maintain." Elena handed the tablet back to James. "So they want to break us before we become a threat. They want to ensure that humanity never has the strength to challenge their authority." "That is what it looks like to me," James agreed. "And Captain, there is more. The Council is not just making demands. They have already positioned observation fleets around our major systems. Hundreds of ships appeared in human space 6 hours ago. They claim they are monitoring our compliance with the directive, but it looks more like an invasion force waiting for an excuse to attack." Elena walked back to the observation window and stared out at the stars. Somewhere out there, her younger brother Marcus was stationed on Titan Station, one of humanity's largest research facilities. Her parents lived on New Earth. the first colony humanity had established beyond the solar system. Millions of humans had built lives among these stars, raised families, and dreamed of a future among the cosmos. Now some ancient alliance of elder species wanted to crush those dreams simply because humanity had dared to grow too quickly. What is Earth's response? Elena asked. James hesitated before answering. The United Earth government is fractured. The European alliance wants to negotiate. They believe we can reach a compromise. The Pacific Coalition is calling for immediate compliance. They say we cannot fight the entire galaxy. But the American Federation and the African Union are refusing to surrender. They are calling the Council's demands an act of war. They are right, Elena said firmly. This is war. The Council is just pretending otherwise until they have us surrounded and helpless. Her communication badge chirped urgently. Elena tapped it and heard the voice of Admiral Richard Stone, the commander of Earth's Outer Defense Fleet. His transmission was encrypted on the highest security channel. Captain Vasquez, I am contacting every ship commander I trust. What I am about to tell you does not exist in any official record. Understood? Understood, Admiral, Elena replied. The government may be debating, but the military is not waiting. We have activated Operation Backbone. You should have received new orders through secure channels. Follow them exactly. Move your ship to the coordinates provided and wait for further instructions. Tell your crew nothing except that you are conducting routine patrol maneuvers. If anyone asks why you are leaving your assigned sector, you are responding to reports of pirate activity. Elena glanced at James, who was already pulling up the secure orders on his tablet. His eyes widened as he read the coordinates. They were being directed to a position far from any established human settlement, out in the empty space between star systems. Admiral, these orders will take us away from Earth, just as the Council is surrounding our space. If they attack while we are out of position, then we will be exactly where we need to be, Admiral Stone interrupted. Captain, the Council gave us 20 days to comply, but they have been positioning ships for an attack since before they made their demands. They are going to strike us regardless of what we do. Operation Backbone is our insurance policy. We are scattering our forces so that when the Council thinks they have destroyed our fleet, they will discover they have only hit our forward positions. The real strength of humanity will be waiting in places they never thought to look. Elena felt a cold determination settle over her. When do you think they will attack? My analysts believe we have less than 2 weeks. Maybe less than 1. The Council is old and arrogant. They think we will spend the full 20 days arguing with ourselves while they get into position. They are wrong. Follow your orders, Captain. And Elena, when the time comes, make them regret ever threatening humanity. The transmission ended. Elena looked at James and saw the same grim resolve in his eyes that she felt in her own heart. Set course for the coordinates in the secure orders, Elena commanded. Tell the crew we are investigating reports of unusual activity in the outer rim. No one needs to know more than that yet. Understood, Captain, James replied. What about the civilian stations? Should we warn them? Elena considered carefully. The Council is monitoring all our communications. If we start evacuating civilians, they will know we are preparing for war. That might provoke them into attacking immediately, before we are ready. For now, we follow orders and trust that someone with more information than us is making the right decisions. Over the next 8 days, the ESS Horizon moved to its assigned position along with 60 other human ships. They maintained complete communication silence, running on minimal power to avoid detection. Through passive sensors, they watched as more Council ships appeared throughout human space. The alien fleet was massive, probably numbering over 1,000 vessels. They surrounded Earth, circled the major colony worlds, and positioned themselves near every human space station and research facility. On day 9, Elena received a priority transmission from Titan Station. It was her brother Marcus, and his message was brief and desperate. Elena, I do not have much time. Massive energy signatures just appeared on our sensors. Council ships, hundreds of them, moving toward the station at attack speed. They are not responding to our hails. The defense platforms are powering up, but we do not have enough firepower to stop them. If you can hear this, tell Mom and Dad that The transmission cut to static. Elena stared at the communication console, her hands gripping the armrests of her command chair so tightly that her knuckles turned white. Around her, the bridge crew sat in stunned silence. Captain, we are receiving reports from across human space, James said, his voice hollow. Council forces are attacking simultaneously. They are hitting Titan Station, Europa Base, the shipyards at Proxima Centauri, and the research colonies in the Kepler system. Early estimates indicate thousands of casualties. Elena forced herself to breathe, to think clearly despite the rage and grief threatening to overwhelm her. The Council had not waited 20 days. They had given humanity time to consider surrender, but they had never intended to honor their own deadline. This had always been their plan. Surround humanity, pretend to offer terms, then strike before any real resistance could form. But they had made a critical mistake. They had assumed humanity would need time to prepare for war. They had forgotten that humans had spent 10,000 years fighting each other, learning every brutal lesson about survival and conflict. War was not something humanity needed to prepare for. It was something they had never stopped being ready for. All crew to battle stations, Elena commanded, her voice cold and steady. Power up all weapon systems. Bring the engines to full capacity. Send a secure transmission to all ships in our group. Operation Backbone is now active. We are going to war. The bridge exploded into controlled chaos as her crew rushed to their stations. Across human space, on ships scattered throughout the darkness between stars, other captains were receiving the same reports and making the same decision. The Council had attacked without warning, had murdered thousands of civilians, and had believed humanity would break under the assault. They were about to learn how wrong they were. Elena activated the ship-wide communication system and spoke to her crew. This is Captain Vasquez. 30 minutes ago, the Galactic Sovereignty Council launched unprovoked attacks against human civilian targets across our space. They hit our stations, our colonies, and our research facilities without warning. They killed our people, our families, our friends. They did this because they believed we would surrender rather than fight. They believed we would accept subjugation rather than defend ourselves. Elena paused, letting her words sink in throughout the ship. They were wrong. Today, humanity goes to war. Not because we want to, but because we must. Not because we seek conquest, but because we will not be slaves. The Council thinks they know us. They think we are young and weak and frightened. Let us show them what humanity truly is. Let us show them what happens when you threaten our families and attack our homes. Battle stations, everyone. We have a war to win. As the ESS Horizon and 60 other ships began moving toward their first target, Elena thought of her brother Marcus. She thought of all the people who had died in the Council's treacherous attack, and she made a silent promise. The Council had started this war believing it would be quick and easy. They had awakened something they did not understand. They had awakened humanity's wrath, and before this war ended, they would pay for every life they had taken. The stars outside the observation window seemed to burn brighter as the ESS Horizon accelerated toward battle. The war had begun, and humanity would show the galaxy what it truly meant to face a species that refused to surrender. The counteroffensive. 3 days after the Council's surprise attack, Captain Elena Vasquez stood on the bridge of the ESS Horizon, studying tactical displays that showed the devastation across human space. Titan Station was gone, reduced to debris and bodies floating in the cold vacuum. Europa Base had been crippled, its dome shattered and thousands dead. The shipyards at Proxima Centauri burned, their construction facilities destroyed. In total, the Council's opening strike had killed over 8,000 humans and destroyed infrastructure that had taken decades to build. But the Council had not achieved their objective. They had not broken humanity's will to fight. And, most importantly, they had not destroyed humanity's military capacity. Operation Backbone had worked exactly as planned. When Council forces struck at what they believed were humanity's main fleet positions, they found only a fraction of Earth's warships. The rest had been scattered across dozens of hidden positions, waiting for exactly this moment. Now it was time for humanity to strike back. Status report, Elena commanded, her eyes never leaving the tactical display that showed the positions of both human and Council forces across 5 different star systems. Commander James Chen pulled up a series of readouts on his console. We have confirmation that all strike groups are in position. Admiral Stone's fleet is ready at the Arcturus belt. Commander Reeves has her ships positioned near the Council forward base at Zeta Reticuli. Captain Morrison reports his stealth squadron has penetrated Council space and is awaiting the attack order. Total human forces committed to the counteroffensive number 420 ships. Elena nodded slowly. 420 ships against a Council force that numbered over 1,000 vessels. On paper, humanity was outmatched. But Elena had learned something important during her years in space. Numbers only mattered if you fought the kind of war your enemy expected. Humanity had no intention of meeting the Council in a traditional fleet engagement. That would be suicide. Instead, humans would fight the way they always had when facing superior forces. They would be unpredictable, ruthless, and willing to break every rule the Council considered sacred. "The Council believes they have already won," Elena said to her assembled bridge crew. "They hit us hard and fast. They showed overwhelming force. They expect us to be in shock, disorganized, and desperate. They think we will either surrender now or die slowly as they methodically destroy our remaining assets. We are going to teach them a very painful lesson about assumptions." She activated the communication system that connected her to the 60 ships in her strike group. Faces appeared on screens throughout the bridge, each one showing a ship captain or commander waiting for orders. Elena recognized many of them. She had served with some, trained with others, and built relationships of trust over years of working together in the vastness of space. "Captains, you have all seen the target analysis. The Council has established a forward operating base in the Kepler system. They are using it as a staging point for attacks against our colonies and a resupply hub for their fleets. According to intelligence, approximately 150 Council ships are stationed there, along with supply depots, communication relays, and command facilities. They chose the location because it is deep in what they consider secure space. They do not believe we would dare strike this far into their operational area." Elena pulled up a three-dimensional display of the Kepler system, highlighting the Council base and the surrounding space. "That arrogance is their weakness. We are going to hit this base with everything we have, but we are not going to fight fair. We are not going to announce our presence, and we are not going to give them time to mount a coordinated defense. This is not a battle. This is an execution." Over the next 6 hours, the human fleet moved into position around the Kepler system. They traveled through empty space where no sensors would detect them, using the natural radiation of stars and the gravity wells of dead planets to mask their approach. The Council had sophisticated detection systems, technology far more advanced than anything humanity possessed. But those systems were designed to find ships that were actively moving and broadcasting. They were not optimized to detect vessels that were running cold and silent, drifting through space like debris. Elena watched the countdown timer on her display. 30 minutes until the attack began. She thought about her brother Marcus, dead in the attack on Titan Station. She thought about the thousands of other humans who had died in the Council's unprovoked assault. She thought about the families who would never see their loved ones again, because some ancient alliance of elder species had decided humanity needed to be controlled. The Council had made a terrible mistake. They had treated this like a police action, a simple matter of disciplining an upstart species. They had forgotten that war was not about rules and protocols. War was about will and determination, and the willingness to do whatever was necessary to protect what you loved. The Council had been at peace for thousands of years. Humanity had never stopped fighting. "All ships report ready," James announced. "We have confirmed that Admiral Stone's fleet is also in position at Arcturus. Commander Reeves is ready at Zeta Reticuli. Captain Morrison's stealth squadron has penetrated to within 50,000 kilometers of the Council home system. We are coordinated across 5 systems, Captain. When we strike, the Council is going to face simultaneous attacks across their entire operational area." Elena felt a cold satisfaction settle over her. The Council believed they were fighting one species confined to a small region of space. They were about to discover that humanity had brought the war to their doorstep. "All ships, final weapons check," Elena ordered. "Ensure all missiles are loaded, railguns are charged, and energy weapons are at full capacity. When we drop out of stealth, I want us hitting them with everything simultaneously. No warnings, no chances to surrender. They did not give our people on Titan Station any warning. We will extend them the same courtesy." The countdown reached 0. Elena took a deep breath and gave the order that would change the course of the war. "All ships, execute attack pattern Omega. Hit them now." The ESS Horizon dropped its stealth systems and fired every weapon it had. Around it, 60 other human ships did the same. Missiles streaked across the darkness of space, their engines burning bright as they accelerated toward the Council base. Railguns fired projectiles at a fraction of light speed, each one carrying enough kinetic energy to punch through shields and armor. Energy weapons carved through the void, targeting communication arrays and sensor platforms. The Council base erupted in chaos. Alarms blared across 150 ships as they scrambled to respond to an attack they had never anticipated. Defense systems activated automatically, but they were oriented in the wrong directions. The Council had positioned their defenses to protect against attacks from human space. They had never imagined that human ships could penetrate this deep into their territory without being detected. Elena watched as her missiles found their targets. A Council supply ship exploded, its cargo of fuel and ammunition detonating in a brilliant flash that consumed 3 nearby vessels. A communication relay station disintegrated under concentrated railgun fire. A Cytherian cruiser tried to raise its shields, but human weapons struck before the defensive systems could fully activate. The ship's hull tore open, venting atmosphere and crew into the vacuum. "Continue firing," Elena commanded. "Target their command ships. I want their coordination broken. Make them fight as individuals, not as a fleet." The battle became a nightmare for the Council forces. They were trained to fight in organized formations with clear command structures and established protocols. But human ships were attacking from multiple vectors, using tactics that seemed random but were carefully calculated to create maximum confusion. When Council vessels tried to form defensive positions, human ships would break off and strike from a different angle. When Council commanders tried to organize a counterattack, human cyber warfare teams would flood their communication networks with false orders and corrupted data. Commander Reeves reported in from Zeta Reticuli. "Captain Vasquez, we have successfully destroyed the Council forward base here. 60 enemy ships destroyed, 30 more disabled. Human losses are minimal. We are moving to secondary targets." Admiral Stone's voice came through from the Arcturus belt. The Council fleet here tried to mount a defense, but their coordination was poor. They are used to fighting against species that respect their authority and follow predictable patterns. Our tactics are completely outside their experience. We have shattered their formation and are pursuing scattered groups. This is going better than projected. Elena allowed herself a brief moment of satisfaction before focusing back on her own battle. The Kepler system engagement was reaching its critical phase. The Council forces had finally managed to organize a response. 36 ships were forming a defensive line, trying to create a position from which they could mount a coordinated counterattack. "Target that defensive formation," Elena ordered, "but do not engage directly. I want mines deployed along their most likely retreat vector. Use the debris field from the destroyed ships as cover. When they realize they cannot hold their position and try to withdraw, I want them running straight into our trap." It was a brutal tactic, one that violated several conventions of space warfare. But Elena had stopped caring about conventions the moment the Council murdered her brother. This was not about honor or fairness. This was about survival and making sure the Council understood that attacking humanity came with a terrible cost. The Council defensive line held for 20 minutes before their commanders realized they were in an untenable position. They had lost more than half their original strength, and human ships were still attacking from positions they could not effectively target. The order came to withdraw and regroup at a fallback position deeper in Council space. 40 Council ships turned and accelerated toward what their sensors showed as empty space. They were traveling at high speed, desperate to escape the human attack when they entered the minefield Elena had deployed. The explosions were catastrophic. Ships that had survived the initial battle disintegrated as mines detonated around them. Some vessels managed to avoid the mines, only to find human ships waiting on the other side, weapons ready to fire at point-blank range. When the Battle of Kepler system ended 4 hours after it began, the Council had lost 120 ships. The human fleet had lost 9 vessels with another 15 damaged, but still operational. It was a stunning victory, made even more significant by the simultaneous successes at Arcturus, Zeta Reticuli, and the other strike points. But Elena knew the real victory was not measured in ships destroyed. It was measured in the message they had sent. The Council had believed humanity would be paralyzed by shock after the opening attack. Instead, humans had struck back harder and faster than anyone had imagined possible. The Council had believed their superior numbers and technology made them invincible. Instead, they had learned that tactics and determination could overcome technological advantages. Most importantly, the Council had believed they could wage war with impunity, attacking human civilians without consequences. Now they knew better. Elena activated the communication array and broadcast a message on all frequencies, knowing it would be intercepted by Council forces throughout the region. She wanted them to hear this. She wanted every Council ship and station to understand what was coming. This is Captain Elena Vasquez of the United Earth Forces. 3 days ago, your government launched unprovoked attacks against human civilian targets. You destroyed Titan Station where my brother worked. You killed 8,000 non-combatants, including children, families, and people who had never raised a weapon against anyone. You did this without warning, without mercy, and without honor. Elena paused, letting her words echo across the void. Behind her, the Kepler system burned with the wreckage of Council ships. Today, we responded. We struck 5 of your military installations simultaneously. We destroyed your forward operating bases. We shattered your fleets. And we did this while specifically avoiding your civilian populations. We could have targeted your cities. We could have done to your worlds what you did to ours. We chose not to, because unlike your government, we do not make war on innocents. She leaned forward, her expression hard and unforgiving. But understand this clearly. Every time you attack our civilians, we will respond by destroying your military 10 times over. Every time you threaten our families, we will make your commanders pay in blood and steel. You started this war believing you were strong and we were weak. You are learning the truth now. Humanity does not surrender. Humanity does not break. And humanity will not stop until you answer for every life you have taken. The transmission ended. Around Elena, her bridge crew sat in silence, processing what they had just witnessed and participated in. They had gone from being victims of a devastating surprise attack to executing a coordinated counteroffensive that had stunned the entire galaxy. The war was far from over, but the momentum had shifted dramatically. Captain, we are receiving transmissions from Council space, James reported. Multiple sources, both military and civilian. Some are demanding explanations from their governments about why humanity was able to strike so deep into their territory. Others are questioning the official narrative that humans were the aggressors. Our broadcast is spreading throughout their networks. Elena nodded. This was the second part of humanity's strategy. Military victory alone would not end this war. The Council had vast resources and could replace lost ships eventually. But the Council also had something humanity could exploit. They had civilian populations that had lived in peace for thousands of years. Those civilians had no experience with war, no understanding of its costs, and no reason to accept the sacrifices it demanded. If humanity could turn Council civilians against their own government, the war might end without humanity having to destroy every Council ship in the galaxy. Continue broadcasting our message, Elena ordered. I want every civilian in Council space to see the evidence of what their government did. Show them the recordings from Titan Station. Show them the bodies of our children floating in space. Show them that we are fighting in self-defense, not conquest. And make sure they see that we are showing restraint their government refused to extend to us. Over the next weeks, the pattern repeated across multiple star systems. Human forces would strike Council military targets with devastating effectiveness, then broadcast evidence of Council atrocities to civilian populations. The strategy worked better than anyone had dared hope. Protests erupted on Council worlds. Citizens demanded to know why their governments had attacked first if humans were truly the threat they claimed. News networks in Council space began questioning official narratives. Some Council member species started calling for negotiations, but the Council leadership remained defiant. They increased their attacks on human colonies, apparently believing that greater violence would force humanity to surrender. They were wrong. Each attack only strengthened human resolve and provided more evidence that the Council was the aggressor. The war continued to escalate, and humanity continued to prove that they would not break. Captain Elena Vasquez stood once again on the observation deck of the ESS Horizon, watching stars that had seen thousands of years of Council peace now burn with the fires of war. Her brother was dead. Thousands of humans were dead. The galaxy would never be the same. But humanity had survived the Council's attempt to destroy them. They had fought back and proven that age and technology did not guarantee victory. Will and determination still mattered. Courage and sacrifice still counted. And humanity possessed those qualities in abundance. The war was far from over, but Elena knew one thing with absolute certainty. The Council had made a fatal mistake when they attacked humanity. They had awakened, something they could not control, and started a conflict they could not win. Humanity would continue fighting until the Council acknowledged their crimes and agreed to a just peace. And if the Council refused, Humanity would bring the war to every system they controlled until they had no choice but to surrender. The stars burned bright outside the window, and Elena whispered a promise to her brother's memory. "We will not stop, we will not surrender, and we will make them pay for what they did, I swear it."